Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. We are in the very important month of July, and we have several players on our big board that will be committing this month. Really, most of them will be. Some of them might kind of take it into August, early August, but I would say that by August the 1st, we'll have pretty much our entire class intact. So it's huge from that perspective. Also, fall camp starts up July the 31st. That's huge because there's several big-time position battles that we need to figure out who's going to be the starters here, who's number two coming off the bench, so on and so forth. That's what today's video is going to be about. But we know that this roster is really deep. It's a lot deeper than anything Coach Heupel has had up on campus here, maybe since he's been a head coach, period. And even the national media is kind of starting to pick up some of the hype. I'm hearing and watching some of these videos, and you can tell that the people that are actually looking at our team, actually looking at our roster on a deeper level, they're saying, oh yeah, this team looks really, really good. So a lot to be excited about. But please, as always, y'all, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much to the members. Thank you so much to everyone that's been donating. Y'all already know that you can become a member by clicking the join button below this video. And you can also donate to the channel by scanning the Cash App QR code in the top right-hand corner. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, y'all, we're going to be starting off with the safeties today. I believe that this is going to be the most important position battle heading into fall camp. And I've been on record as saying that I believe that this is the most important position on a defense in today's football. Y'all can argue that point. Obviously, there's several, points that could be made for different levels. But in my opinion, safety is so important. We have not had great safety play in a very, very long time. Can we kind of get over that hump this season? I think that we've got the bodies in that room to do it. And then also, if you look at the way that our offense is set up tempo, scoring points really fast, we expect that teams will be chasing us for the most part this year. So what are they going to have to do? Try to throw the ball over the top. And that is primarily going to be about our safety play and how Coach Banks chooses to use them. Now, we'll say this. If I had a perfect world, my two starting safeties, I don't care if it's a walk-on, I don't care if it's a transfer, I don't care if it's a true freshman or a sixth, seventh year senior. I don't care who it is. Whoever the starters are, I want for them to be able to do these, 3 to 4 things, okay? Number one, you have to know what to do out on the field. You have to be able to get people lined up. You have to be in the right coverages, all of that. That would be number one for me. Number two is being able to come up and help and run support. Not just, being able to do it, but wanting to do it, showing that fight to do it, and being kind of an enforcer on the back end. And then, 3 and 4 would be being able to play man and zone coverage. You have to be able to do all of these things. And if you're, kind of weak in one position or, like in one area of all this, what ends up happening is we're going to have to hide you because teams are going to figure out what you're weak at, and they're going to try to exploit that as much as they possibly can. So that's why I've been on the record as saying that I feel like the two starters should be Kobe Thomas and John Slaughter. I just see the most well-roundedness out of those two players. But whoever it is, I don't care. That's up to the coaches to decide. But let's just put the best ones out there regardless of what year they are. That's all I'm looking for. But Kobe Thomas, the transfer from Middle Tennessee State, I've said it several times. I love everything about his game. Very willing to come up, make those tackles. Seems like he understands football. Seems like he is a leader. He could play man coverage. He could play zone coverage. So I love him right there. Andre Turrentine, my only knock on him has been, will he come up and be as physical as we need for him to be? But I've seen a little bit more of that, something that he will probably have to continue to work on. I think that he looked pretty good doing that in the orange and white game. John Slaughter, again, very well-rounded. Reminds me a lot of a Kobe Thomas. Might not be as good in man-to-man coverage as Andre Turrentine, but he can get it done. I mean, he's a really good athlete. And, again, not to knock on nobody, but I would say that any of these three guys are going to be better athletes than what we had out there last year as starters. So we're going to be fine right there. After that, we've got Will Brooks. That's the former walk-on. I believe that he's a scholarship player now. He played a lot for us last season at Star, some at safety, but I feel like he can get it done. Probably just more of a situational player. It sounds more like he will be a guy that kind of comes off the bench in those situations, and that's great. I mean, he's great in run support, and, he does a really good job in zone coverage. Man-to-man coverage, he's lacking a little bit there, but if we put him in the right spots, if we put him in, maybe like a zone or give him some help, then he's going to figure it out. I mean, he probably knows what to do better than anyone else in this room. After that, we've got Christian Charles, who sounds like he will be back for fall camp. Now, this is huge because I just talked about maybe Kobe Thomas, maybe John Slaughter as the starters, but it could be maybe a Kobe Thomas and a Christian Charles, or maybe a John Slaughter and a Christian Charles. So him being back healthy is going to be really, really big for us. That's another body that we don't talk a whole lot about, but him and also Christian Harrison, who I like a whole lot, especially talking about coming down and run support. I think he looks really good in man or in zone coverage. That's another one not to sleep on. But who wins this battle? That's the question. This right here, y'all, I think out of all of the battles that we're going to talk about today, whoever the starting two is, and then whoever comes off the bench right after them is going to determine in a very, very major way how far this football team can go. Next is going to be the left guard position battle. This is going to be a huge one. We talked about this a whole lot coming out of last season just because we kind of had a makeshift offensive line for most of the year. Now, we will say this: left tackle, center, right guard, right tackle. Love what you have right there. That is 4 studs that we have pretty much no questions about. And this is going to be, with just those 4, the best offensive line that Coach Heupel has had up in Knoxville. A whole lot of veterans right there that can get it done. Now, at the left guard spot, who's it going to be? There's several options, as y'all can see on this list. For me, number 1 is Sham Umarov. I just think that he has the most upside. About 6'7", 320, 330 pounds. Came in as a 4-star offensive tackle, but I love what I've seen from him in the spring playing at left guard. We also have Jackson Lampley, who I have at number 2. He was a 4-star coming out of high school. Now, he's a little bit smaller. He's at about 6'4", 315, 320 pounds, but he is also a veteran. This is his last year playing for our Volunteers, and he's from Tennessee, okay? You would expect that he could come in, and he's going to play with that dog, okay? He might not have as high of a ceiling as like a Sham Umarov, but I think that if we had to put him out there, he's going to do a really solid job. Right after that, I've got Andre Carrick. He was a 4-star coming out of high school, goes on to Texas, and they used him as kind of like a, blocking tight end. We've used him as that as well up under Coach Heupel, but, he's also played at left guard for us. I think he's played at right guard as well. He can do it. I mean, I would not say that he's the best out of the 3 that I've named so far, but he could get it done. There's just a couple of things that he needs to kind of get corrected. And it seems like it could kind of be some fundamental things. It could be some strength and conditioning types of things as well. But we didn't get to see him or Jackson Lampley pretty much through all of spring camp. So how do they look coming into fall camp is going to be really, really big. Also, Dane Davis is a guy that we could throw in there as well as that backup swing tackle, but he's really like the backup everything on this offensive line. I think that he could come in and play just as good as anyone that we talked about so far inside of this room. So we do have some good talent here. We've got some really good depth. Also, what do some of these freshmen do? Can some of them step up? Maybe if we need them to, how much have they kind of changed from spring to fall camp? You would be surprised at how much of a difference just that little bit of time can make in a college weight room, especially your first year up on campus. So again, y'all, I think that Sham Umarov starts right there. I think that the offensive line is going to be very stout. It's going to be unbelievable. And Nico should have a whole lot of time to, dissect a defense, but also the running backs are going to have some major lanes to run through. So offense should be very productive. And I think that it pretty much, starts right here. Who wins this battle out is going to be very big for our Volunteers. And next we have the 3rd wide receiver spot. We already know that Brew McCoy is going to be starting at 1 wide receiver spot. Squirrel White's going to be your slot. But who's going to be the outside guy? I'm talking about just as far as starting goes. Hopefully we will be rotating a lot more with our wide receivers just because this room is so deep. But is it going to be a guy like Dante Thornton, 6'5", 220 pounds, 24 miles an hour, has spent over a year in our system, came along very strong towards the end of last year, then he got hurt. The lights seem to have dimmed a whole lot for him out there on the field. And I think that the game is slowing down for him. Heard all the insiders raving about him throughout all of spring. I love what I saw as well. Looks like he's ready to contribute as a starter this year. But he's also got Chris Brazel, the transfer from Tulane, who's about 6'4", 6'5", 210, 215 pounds. He's fast, he's long, he's wide, he's rangy. Is he going to be a guy who pushes? Because he also looks very good in spring. This battle right here is going to be huge. Who's going to be the starter? Because the starter will more than likely be getting most of the reps this year. It's going to say a whole lot about how this team looks moving forward. Something else that I'll throw out with both of these players, they look really good blocking on the outside. That's huge for our wide receivers. But we also have a true freshman in Mike Matthews. Scored in every single scrimmage that we had throughout all of spring. Can he continue that reign of dominance coming into fall camp? I think that he can. He's a really good player, at about 6'2", 190-ish pounds. But, 4'3", 40. He's a dog. He gets it done. So already we can see how deep we are at, potentially the 3rd wide receiver spot. But we also have Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb. Those are 2 guys that we have liked a lot, throughout all the spring. I think that they've shown up and they've been very consistent. Didn't play the best last season, but they're kind of, building off of a very strong spring. How has their summer been going? I've been hearing really good things. But what do they do heading into fall camp? This right here, there's several more places we could talk about, but just this group right here, unbelievable amount of talent, and they'll all get their opportunities. I think that several of these guys are versatile enough to play in some different areas, and they most definitely will. I don't even know if all these guys will necessarily be fighting for a spot right here at this position. I don't know if Dante Thornton, maybe Chris Brazzell, maybe they're both the top two fighting here, and maybe Mike Matthews. But what about Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb? Maybe they're more behind Brew McCoy. I don't know for sure on that, but what I can tell you is this room is very deep, and this battle is not going to get any easier than what we saw coming out of spring. So very, very excited about what we have inside of this room. All right, back to defense. Strong side defensive end. We all know about how those Leos look. They look really good, but we don't have a true starter right here. We don't know who it's going to be. Up at the top, I've got Tyree Weathersby. I like him a whole lot. I liked him a lot since he was in high school. I think that he probably gives you the most bang for your buck. He's the most versatile, the most multiple. He can set that edge, but he can also get after the passer, I think, on maybe a little bit of a higher level than anyone else inside this room. Maybe outside of like a Jason Jenkins, who everyone keeps on raving about. He's taller, he's longer, he's bigger, just overall. I don't know if he necessarily has as much of a twitch and a burst, but he's another one. Obviously, that's going to be in the fight for the starter right here at this position. Then we've got Tyree West. I love how he looks playing, kind of like a run stopper. I was watching some of that South Carolina game last night on SEC Network, and there was a play right down there by the goal line where, of course, we're going to bring some of these bigger strong side DNs in those types of situations. He's kind of a, defensive tackle end hybrid, but him, at 290 pounds, there was a play where I saw him, 2-3 guys came out to block him and he held his ground. So that's really big. I just think that, honestly speaking, y'all, this position group is going to be about the different situations, but really all these guys are pretty much starting caliber. And then also Dominic Bailey, I think that he's more of a Tyree West sort of a body. He's definitely a guy that can stop that run. He's going to be strong at the point of contact. Not the best pass rusher, but he can also get after that quarterback. So this battle right here is going to be really, really big. Who's going to be the starter? Again, I think it's going to be more about the situations that we're in is who's going to be playing right there. But another very, very deep spot right here on this roster. Could not be more excited so far just going through this thing. And tight end is going to be another very big position battle. Who's going to be the starter here? We usually rotate, mostly 2 tight ends, but maybe we rotate 3 a little bit more this year just because we actually have the depth to do it. I think that would be huge. But for me, the main guy's got to be Ethan Davis because he's the only player that we're going to be talking about right here today that we actually recruited out of high school. Maybe Charlie Browder too. I think that he was a walk-on. But Ethan Davis, you want to keep him happy. You want to keep him around. So he's got to play a lot. I also think that he's well-rounded enough that he can do it on a very high level. I feel like he will do it on a very high level. 6'5", 250 pounds. A very high level receiver, long catch radius, great hands. And you can tell that him and Nico already have that connection. So I think that he might kind of get an edge just for that reason, but also Holden stays and then Miles Kittelman kind of neck and neck. I would say this is like 1A, 1B, 1C. Anybody can go. So not going to be a ton of drop off, but who ends up starting inside this room? Also, Charlie Browder, how much playing time is he going to get? He's looked good. Is he going to push any of these guys, to maybe get out on the field a little bit earlier? Hopefully it's not too much politics involved with this. I just want to see the best players play, whoever that is. But yeah, this is another extremely deep room on this team. And the third running back will be the last position battle that we're going to be talking about today. Number one, how does the rotation look, period, up under Coach Sims? Is he going to rotate 3 guys like we have since Coach Heupel has been up in Knoxville, or does he do 2? Does he do 4? Let's just say, for the sake of this video, that he's going to do what we have been doing and rotate 3. This is a big battle because, who ends up winning this one out is going to say a lot about how this team looks moving forward. We all know that last season, Dylan Sampson was able to come in as the third running back off of the bench and provide major sparks in some big-time situations. I think that if you look at this group, these 3 running backs, they're similar in some facets of their game, but they're actually all pretty different, right? We've got Peyton Lewis, who I would say might be the most well-rounded out of these 3, about 6'1", 225, 230 pounds, 4'3" guy. Now, he is a true freshman. Can he pick things up? I think that he will. It's not a whole lot to have to learn playing at running back, but obviously there is going to be some sort of a learning curve. So has he picked it up? I have no reasons to suspect that he hasn't. Also, kind of coming off of a minor surgery, hasn't really got to get out there and play a lot, especially with the pads on in live situations. How does he look once that starts up in fall camp? Will tell us a lot about how deep this running back room actually is. Again, y'all, we think that the starters will be Dylan Sampson and Cam Seldon. Another part of the reason this is really big is because Cam Seldon probably won't be back at least until the Oklahoma game. So whoever number 3 is essentially will end up being number 2 to start this year off. So Deshaun Bishop right here at number 2. This really isn't necessarily in an order, but Deshaun Bishop, he's a sophomore, or he's a redshirt freshman, whatever. He's been in our system. He understands what to do. He understands what is expected of him. I love what I saw from him in spring camp this year. Gets behind his pads well. You can tell that he understands what to do. Shifty, he's fast, falls forward, all those good things. So, I mean, he's a guy that maybe kind of a change of pace, more of a Dylan Sampson sort of a body. Then we have right here at number 3, Khalifa Keith. Might be the biggest back inside of this room. More of the downhill guy, more of the short yardage guy. But I think that ultimately what we do is we bring guys in based off of the situation, which is really what you should do, right? I mean, based off of what you need to get done, right? Bring in the proper tool for the job, for lack of a better term to use. But I think that that's how we're going to play it. Hopefully that is what Coach Sims does. And then, in doing that, we get more and more running backs on the field. We get more experience. Players stay happy. They stay hungry. They stay engaged with this team. That's the way that I would do it. But y'all let me know y'all's thoughts about all the position battles down in the comment section. That's it for this one. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.